Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering a lot of new IEMs and where I place them, where I mark them on my wallhack certified tier list, which is a gaming ranking. It does not reflect on how these sound in the ear for other purposes, entertainment, music, enjoyment, so on and so forth. But the competitive aspects of imaging, separation, layering, soundstage, so on and so forth. I do want to start off with the collab here between Critical and 7 Hertz, the Diablo and the Divine, but just so you guys know, this video will cover the more premium priced set, the RSV-MKII from Softears, and the Kiwi ears Belle, which is more on the budget side, a single dynamic driver, whereas with the Diablo, the Divine, we have a planar driver. And Kryn actually discussed on Twitter why it's just not feasible to have a dip switch, to have the two different tunings in one unit, and that's okay with me. These are priced at $150 and have a similar unboxing experience, which actually includes a really nice carrying case here that does match the theme of the IEMs, the aesthetic. You've got a nice cable that comes in the box as well. It is a 3.5 on my set, and then you have a multitude of different ear tips. Now, the Diablo and the Divine, I actually really enjoy both of these sets for different reasons in game, and I primarily enjoyed more the Diablo from a music listening perspective, just the tracks that I'm listening to right now. But you guys can see on the graph the differences in the tunings, a lot more on the low end of the Diablo, which fits the name, and the Divine with a different aesthetic, an all chrome aesthetic, definitely has more neutrality, but still a nice little punch in that low end. Now, the Diablo, I think, will be a set that works very well in Battlefield, and I just find that Battlefield, as long as you have a set that has decent imaging, separation, layering, and has a little bit more heft on that low end, the clanks, the clacks of footsteps actually shine through a little bit more. And as long as it doesn't get drowned out by gunfire, tanks, explosions, air, the jets flying over your head, a set can perform very well in Battlefield. And the Diablo, I actually do prefer in Battlefield 6 multiplayer. It just has great imaging and presentation of the footsteps and the clanks as different things are going on. When there are things, though, that get a little bit more intense with tanks and jets flying overhead, you do lose out a little bit on that separation and layering, but it's actually quite a good set in that regard for Battlefield. I actually do prefer it over the Divine just because, again, some of those things really do pull through to a greater extent. The imaging on both of these sets is fairly good. I think that it doesn't quite get to where I would mark something kind of in that A- territory, but the imaging, the presentation is fairly good. The Diablo, of course, being a bit more immersive. So when you take them into Valorant, the thocks on the footsteps shine through to a greater extent. But with that, you also have a little bit more on the low end, including the Vandal, the Sheriff, the Operator, some of the abilities. But I actually find the separation, layering, the imaging to be pretty solid in Valorant, to the extent that I would actually place these at a B+. I think they actually are fantastic from a gaming-related perspective. I do find that in Valorant, I kind of lean towards the Divine. I do boost the volume up a little bit so the footsteps come through to a little bit of a greater extent. But when there are 5v5 team fights, you're pushing a site and it's your team running in and you've got a lot of things going on, I do find that the reduction in the low end does help to a great extent. But the Diablo is fantastic at a score of a B+ in Valorant on my listing, and I would score the Divine around that B+, but a little bit better than the Diablo. When we get into Apex Legends, the winner is the Divine. There's just a little bit too much on the low end that is causing some things to be obscured on the Diablo. The imaging is still great. The depth perception, verticality, I didn't have any issues there. But when there's a lot going on, storm behind your back, third parties, grenades, etc., the Diablo's low end does cause just a little bit of an issue, but still great. So like if you really wanted a set with that more voluminous low end, you still have a good set for gaming that transitions well in a multitude of titles. Again, I think the best titles on the Diablo are going to be Valorant as well as Battlefield. I do think that Apex and Call of Duty, it falls behind a little bit and gets far closer in the B category. I do think Call of Duty, it struggles a little bit because that low end kind of carries across on far too many guns. And I do find that the imaging could be a little bit better in Call of Duty and the demarcation of when somebody is a floor above you, a floor below you. But overall, a pretty solid set. I do find that things do get cleaned up to a great extent when you move to the Divine in Call of Duty. The slides, the footsteps just have a little bit more shaved off in the low end, making the read a little bit more visible in terms of imaging. The depth perception in terms of gunfire around the map is still fantastic. And in Apex Legends as well, it is a great set in terms of overall imaging, separation, layering, and fights in a standard ranked match, as opposed to the new game mode where things just get absolutely intense and crazy. But for ranked games, 3v3s, add in a third party, these actually handle quite well. The Divine overall, I'm going to be placing at a B+. The Diablo, I'm going to be placing at a B. The one, again, that I would take for a music listening purpose, just what I'm listening to right now, Falling in Reverse and a lot of rap, so on and so forth. The Diablo is a really, really nice pick. So, like, both of these sets are great. It really just depends. Like, if you want a set, a planar that has some really like meat and heft and energy in that low end, but still remains clean in terms of moving into the mids and the rest of the mix, the Diablo is a pretty awesome set. Both of them have a really cool aesthetic. Again, the Diablo really keeping in line with Crinier and like the black faceplate with the chrome outline, whereas the Divine kind of fitting its name in terms of that more neutrality, coming in with a really cool all-metal chrome look to it. But both of them actually fit nice. I don't find either of them to be too heavy. The nozzle's not too wide, not too long. Both of them comfortable for long durations of time. Up next, I have the RSV-MKII, and this is one of my favorite IEMs of the year, and the IEM that I'm wearing right now on a daily basis for the most part. This is a 5BA set. It does come in at the pricier side at $6.99. It has a really nice, sleek, performance-driven aesthetic with that carbon fiber V and the RS right there on the faceplate. The shell I don't find to be too large or too small. The nozzle is a fish mouth nozzle. Again, not too long, not too wide. Something that just doesn't have a lot of weight to it and is exceptionally comfortable for long durations of time. Comes with a 4.4 cable, which I prefer. That's how I drive my IEMs on my amp DAC. Nice braided cable, just no comfort issues really at all. I wish for the price point it did come with a little bit of a different carrying case, maybe higher quality and feel generally, but it does come with a 3.5 dongle here. It comes with a cleaning cloth, 2 pouches, and 2 different sets of silicone tips. The unboxing experience is pretty nice as well. Overall, the reason why this is getting such good praise from me is that it does things that other IEMs don't in the A tier. It does move kind of a step above, and that is that to provide this much bass boost and bass extension, but still being able to preserve a lot of the competitive features that we are looking for. And you guys can see the graph with respect to the bass boost. But the details that we want to come out in game are coming out fantastically. On that low end, we get a great boost in footsteps in Valorant that come through with a great amount of energy and impact. And despite that low end, when I'm spamming a Vandal, I still hear things come through on the entirety of the range to a very significant extent. So people like walking in water. I hear that as I'm spamming a Vandal, and that's what I want. In 5v5 scenarios with abilities going on, despite that impact and that juiciness in the low end, I just don't have like ever a sense that things are being obscured or covered up as a result of that. So it's quite a rare find to have something with this level of immersion at this price point, but to still have the technicality in keeping things very clean throughout the mix in terms of separation and layering. The imaging is great. So it's a very interesting, unique set that performs very well for Valorant. I think it also performs amazingly. This is my favorite set right now that I'm using in Battlefield, and that's because this level of immersion. When I tell you, like, I feel like I'm in Battlefield when planes are flying overhead or a tank is driving next to me, that's that level of immersion that I'm talking about. And at times the IEM can feel a little bit dark, but things are still so preserved in terms of gunfire, the accuracy of the imaging, everything pulling through as I'm getting shot by a tank. I'm still hearing those light clanks of the footsteps as people are trying to get an angle or pushing up on me. I just feel like it's adding this extra layer of immersion while keeping those competitive features, which is, again, something that a lot of IEMs just don't do. So it's very good in terms of its competitive features and its performance, and being able to still have this level of bass. When I get into Apex, initially, like, I was scoring it a little bit lower in Apex because that low end at times in third parties, fourth parties with the storm behind your back can be a little bit of an issue. With the new audio mix in Apex, I just find that it actually handles very well on the new audio mix to be at a top caliber, where even with thermites going on next to me, I'm still hearing the lighter things that are happening in the building. The light taps coming through very strong, despite that big low end. And imaging in terms of depth perception of gunfire around the map at elevation, verticality, etc. The slides come through with a great level of emphasis despite that low end. I hear people popping shield cells, and again, just handling very well from separation and layering while still feeling very immersive in Apex and transitioning into Call of Duty. Again, amazing set, just as good as I felt in Battlefield. I feel in Call of Duty, that level of immersion, but still like precision airstrikes, mortar strikes, never really flooding those things that I want and need to listen to as I'm playing. So to me, the RSV-MKII will be the lowest priced S tier on my list, coming in at $699. It is a 5BA set, but just keep in mind, if you're someone who is more like, you like more of a lighter sound, or you like more of a more reference set, this set does come off at times as a little bit darker, and that low end, although being very clean, it is something that will provide that additional immersion and warmth. So again, if you like more of a reference, this might not be the set for you. But if you want some nice low end impact, immersion, a little bit of darkness and depth at times, the RSV-MKII is just absolutely fantastic in my book. I also have the Kiwi Ears Belle, and this is a smaller IEM, and it fits okay for me. I generally do like things that are a little bit bigger, but overall, if you are looking for a smaller IEM and you have like a max budget of $30, so far it does sound pretty good. I'm going to get a final thoughts and impressions with the video for the Serene, which is the new headphone with Z reviews. I'll get some final thoughts put together, but you can see in the box, it is a budget set. So you've got a fairly budget feeling cable. You've got 2 sets of silicone ear tips, no carrying case or anything like that. But the IEMs actually do have a similar aesthetic to the Crin ear kind of look. You've got that black faceplate with Kiwi ears with the chrome on the border there of the faceplate. Overall, I would say like the IEM, it does have a few issues, but overall does score pretty well at this price point. I'm going to give it a B-, but I'll give you guys, like, again, I'm going to do a little bit more testing, some final impressions. But one thing, for instance, in Valorant, one thing I do notice is like less of a spotlight effect on depth perception when there are targeted hits in the mix, like people shooting in front of me, for instance. The footsteps in general aren't as loud and emphasized as I would like through the mix. And in general, when you start getting into team fights, you do lose out on that separation, that layering. So it becomes a little bit more difficult to hear things in comparison to the other things in the video. Like if somebody's shooting a Vandal to my left and I'm trying to listen to somebody on the right, it just cuts through a little bit. General imaging is still good and things are still prevalent, but when we move to Apex, we do have similar issues with respect to general depth perception being more spotlighted and separation and layering, again, especially when we get to third parties and fourth parties and things like that. Not a set that I particularly enjoyed so much for Battlefield. In Call of Duty, I actually do think that these are okay, like particularly if you're on a budget. I think like the slides are coming through really nicely. People kicking through doors and things like that could be a little bit more pronounced, but overall, like the gunfire is actually hitting quite nicely in a 360-degree radius and giving me like a good perception of depth. In Battlefield, it's not my favorite just because it lacks this great immersion and a good bit of separation and layering. So for instance, like if there's a tank or a plane flying overhead or a lot of people shooting near me, it just becomes a little bit more difficult to really focus on what's happening. So in general, right now, I think it's going to be landing at around a B-, but again, I'll get more fleshed out thoughts and opinions when we get it in a video with the new Kiwi Ears Serene. So guys, that is it for this quick little scoring here of a lot of these newer IEMs. I hope it helped if you guys are wondering how these sound from a gaming perspective in different titles. I'll have them updated in my wallhack certified tier list that you guys can see in the comments below. And if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. I hope it helped, guys. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.